Okay, sounds good. Rex, yes. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, we're getting a little bit of a late start. You're welcome to join us for the invocation and the pledge. If you wish to do so, please rise. Now, see, I am doing the invocation. Okay. Lord, please guard, and protect all of us as we go forward. Please give this board wisdom to do right for the county, to bear in mind we may from time to time disagree, but we still care about each other. Please help us as a community and as a country to recognize the turmoil in the world and to recognize that we all can do our part to make the world better. And please help us with a rebirth of faith in this country. We need it. We need it now more than ever. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please join me in recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Dave. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bell.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Meeks.
Here.
Scott.
Present.
Ballrath.
Here.
Werfel.
Here.
Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 present.
Thank you. Minutes from last Thursday have been out there for a while. Haven't heard about any changes. If there are none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Moved by Scott, seconded by Meeks. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, I understand we have communications.
Yes, you received a resolution from Marquette County Board of Commissioners supporting the cause of protecting democracy, promoting policies that protect access to the ballot for voters, and building on the progress of the 2020 election received on January 24th. That's all.
Very good, thank you. We're at the point now where we need to go into a public hearing preceding a request for an annexation. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting and to convene the public hearing for purposes of reviewing and discussing an annexation request by the village of Eau Claire, or Eau Claire, depending how you wish to pronounce it.
So moved.
Moved by Volrath, supported by Meeks. Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Curran.
Yes.
Freeling.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Majerick.
Yes.
Meeks.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Ballrath.
Yes.
Werfel.
Yes.
Yarborough.
Yes.
Bell.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas.
Very good, thank you. Our board meeting is adjourned and we are now in public hearing mode. Mr. DeFrancesco, would you like to talk with us about this annexation?
Be glad to do that. I'm Frank DeFrancisco for the Village of Eau Claire. We've made this annexation request pursuant to Michigan State statute. This request goes before the Board of Commissioners. It doesn't go to the State Boundary Commission or anything like that. Eau Claire has submitted this request because AEP had a number of months ago purchased some property adjacent to the village. You can see the property up there on that exhibit. And it's right up against the village line. And so it greets you as you're coming from the east to the west. It's a power substation. It's not in the village as we speak today. It's in Pipestone Township. So obviously there's potential for public safety issues with the property, fire protection issues with the property. It's there to serve power needs. It's not the most beautiful thing to look at, but we recognize it's necessary for community development. On the other hand, now the village has it, right in its back door there. So we're requesting that property, and it's actually two pieces, two parcels. One is the AEP parcel, then there's another parcel. It has a little bowling alley that divides from the village. So we have to include both pieces in this request because it must be contiguous under Michigan law to be annexed. So we made this request. The village is not large. It's fairly small by standards, and tax base is everything, especially now that the bank's gone and some of the other buildings that were taxpayers are not there. And the village is going to be looking at whether it's water service or fire service or whatever it may be. So we believe it's logical to annex the property into the village. So that's what this request is all about. I think one parcel is, the AEP parcel is about 18 acres. The other one's about 21 acres, take them plus or minus a little bit. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions for council? The village president, John Glassman, is recognized. Mr. Glassman, did you have anything you wish to add?
Well, like I said, Amy asked, they called, but through AEP's actions, they physically here are knocking on our door, so we're just gonna let them in. And we have to have your permission to go forward.
Very good, thank you. Questions from around the horn here? Any board members have any questions? Corporate counsel, you've reviewed this. What are your thoughts?
Yes, so in reviewing the proposed order and the proceedings thus far, it appears that all of the statute's requirements have been met in the previous proceedings. So it is appropriately before the board now to determine whether or not to grant the request.
Very good, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing for the annexation request by the Village of Eau Claire? Yes, sir.
The last person that spoke, you're gonna have to talk a little louder, please.
The mic.
Yeah, sorry. Just to rephrase, all the requirements of the statute have been met, and it is now appropriate for the board after the hearing to determine whether or not to grant the request.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anyone aside from Adolph wish to be heard? All right, we will close public comment, and we're at the point now where it's appropriate to move to close the public hearing and return to the regular board meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Scott, supported by Volrath. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Freely,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Meeks.
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Allred,
Yes.
Purple.
Yes.
Yarborough.
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas.
thank you. Misters Glassman and DeFrancesco, you're welcome to stay. We'll get to the vote shortly. It's a part of our consent calendar. On my agenda, it shows a presentation. Transportation update is next by Dan Fetty. So that'll be coming, and then we'll be approving resolutions.
Well, good morning again. Another matter. Pack all of my meeting requests into one day at today. So we have on the consent calendar today, there is an application authorizing, there's a resolution authorizing an application to MDOT for Act 51, 5311 funding for the Berrien bus program for fiscal year 2023. You'll recall that we do this every year around February or March, and then we have to come back sometime in August and September and ask for a modification to that resolution as we have a clearer idea and vision of where we're going to be financially moving into the new fiscal year. So this is the first step. It's a placeholder. It makes sure that we're in line to receive funds, and then we'll be coming back near the end of the summer to modify this. This year, they've moved the application process up to February 1st. So We're running right up against the end of the timeline to get this in. Because this is before you today, we thought it was a good opportunity to come in and give you kind of an update on what's going on with the Berrien bus program, how we finished the year, what 22 is going to look like for us, and what our ideas are or anticipations are for 2023 moving forward. We've met with the BCAT team, Jim, Bob, and Terry as recently as last week to discuss some of the changes and developments in Berrien bus, and this is going to be kind of a brief overview of where we stand and where we think we're going. So here's the agenda for the presentation. I'm going to run through this as fast as possible. Interrupt me if you need to, please. The current situation is actually quite hopeful and positive. Maybe the first time in a number of years I've been here and felt that I could give you some positive news about Berrien bus. But over the course of 2021, Berrien bus has adopted a new employment practice, the method of using RISA and EduStaff for employment services, along with migrating to a system that's largely based on service contracts as opposed to general public ridership. That, along with the sustained increase in federal operating and capital funding, has eliminated our operating losses, and we are now running at a profit. The program is no longer facing any kind of financial difficulty. We expect it's going to remain that way for the foreseeable future. And our intention is to use this kind of, added runway, so to speak, to continue to work with the BCAT and our local partners to assess the state of transportation services countywide and find the best use of our available resources. I'm not going to belabor the whole history here, but you remember in July, Berrien County assumed operations of Berrien Bus and Dial-A-Ride in July 2020 when TMI went out of business. We did this by utilizing temporary employment that basically was only going to continue through the middle of 2022, at which point we're going to face this employment crisis. Fortunately, we were able to negotiate a contract with RISA through one of their service providing contractors called EduStaff, where the Berrien bus employees became the permanent employees of EduStaff and then were contracted to us for operational purposes. And this has been good for us and the employees, who have gotten a little bit more money and some better benefits out of this arrangement. It's saved us money in the long run. During the same period of time, we began migrating Buchanan Dial-A-Ride off of Berrien Bus's operational program and over to the city of Niles. You remember we discussed this at length, but the reason is Niles and Buchanan share the same kind of funding structure. So it made sense, that and their proximity, it made sense for Niles to take over the Buchanan Dial-A-Ride operations. And our understanding is that the city and the community of Buchanan is quite pleased with the way Niles has been running that. Ongoing, in the fall of last year, we met with the Strategic Leadership Council and the subcommittee, which is their best practices committee representing a number of municipalities, to talk about this idea of, forming partnerships for general public service contracts. We give you a block of time, you give us a chunk of change, and we provide kind of route-based service in your community. Unfortunately, there were a number of municipalities that were interested in this, but unfortunately, they all fall within the service area of Takata or Benton Harbor Dial-A-Ride, which means that presently we cannot provide those services to those communities. They would have to contract directly with Takata for those services. We are also at the same time working with the City of Niles, MDOT, RISA, and Berrien Springs to discuss the possibility of a new shared bus garage and bus facility. Our facility is in bad shape. Berrien Springs would be interested in taking the property. RISA has capacity at their facility. Niles has a situation where they're in a floodplain and may have to, move to a different location. So now's the time we're trying to bring these parties together and see if we can build something that we can all use and share in the cost of. Okay, so our service overview, again, I've given you this presentation many times. I think you all should be familiar. We have contract services with service agencies. And then we have general public ridership, where you call, you ask for a ride, you pay your fare, we take you where you need to go. What we have done over the last year or so is structured our service so that we are running more contract hours and few general public ridership hours, and trying to push the general public ridership into the contract services. We always make money on the contracts, as you'll recall. We always lose money on general public ridership, so the contracts are the subsidy for the general public. So this has been a successful strategy over the last 6 to 9 months of limiting our losses on general public ridership while still maintaining a level of service that's acceptable. The contracts consist largely of career technical education programs, Blossomland program, the RISA's continuing technical education programs, and a number of programs administered through DHHS and DNR for summer internship programs at Warren Dunes and places like this. The second bulk of our contracts largely pertains to non-emergency medical transportation through organizations like Area Agency on Aging. Many of the senior centers contract with us. DHHS, a number of assisted living facilities throughout the area contract with us for this, and Riverwood Center as well. So the good news is that rural transportation funding through CARES and ARPA has caused us to see an increase, 100% increase in our reimbursements under the federal program. Previously, 18% of our operating costs are reimbursed by the feds. Currently, it's at 36%. That percentage is going to continue at least for the next 5 years, and there's some indication that it may continue for another 10 years, but 5 years is a safe estimation, 10 years is a possibility. This is an example of what we're seeing as a result of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that was just passed. This is 5311 authorization money as well. It is expected to rise from 637 million currently to over 960 million by FY26. Assuming that the state is able to provide their required match, we expect to see our federal, like I said, our federal operating reimbursements remain at a 36% basis at least through 2026 and beyond, and potentially beyond. So we're in good shape financially. Here's an example of what we've seen in federal reimbursements over time. You see the 18%, and of course it jumped up in 2020, 2021. This year we're getting about 40% because there's a supplement to it. In 2023, we're budgeting back at the 36% level. Here's an example of what this has meant to our fund balance. That and our ability to limit our operating losses on the general public ridership. You know, we dipped down to about $170,000 in available fund balance at the end of 2019, and now we're projecting by the end of 2023, we're going to be back up to around $450,000 in available fund balance. So we have a great cushion of cash to rely on right now. Vehicle hours obviously declined terribly in 2020 and 2021. They started to recover a little bit. We were doing better moving into federal fiscal year 2022 until we had this Omicron wave that hit, and we've seen a lot of school closures and some instances suspension of educational programs. As this passes, though, I mean, assuming that we come out of this sometime in the near future, we are expecting that our vehicle hours will rise back up to our typical level of about 14,500. This is what we're expecting for most of 2022 and moving forward. This is an example of what that vehicle hour decline looks like and where we think we're going to bounce back to this year and next year. Now, our ridership numbers have declined significantly, and we are not expecting them to rise back to the same level as previous. And that's largely because the programs we're running, like non-emergency medical transport, we have to run a large distance physically, but we're only running 3 or 4 people at a time, as opposed to large, you know, a bus full of individuals. So this point was brought up in finance last week, I think by Ezra. Because of this, we're starting to downsize our fleet to more cutaways and transportation vans and things like this, where we don't have to run a big 22-person bus anymore. So long and short of it is we're in good financial shape. We are meeting the needs of the community that needs us most. That is the elderly, continuing education, students, and people who have medical mobility issues. This is essentially the at-risk population that we're designed to meet the needs of, and we are meeting their needs currently. We are not in the position where we're going to have to request funding from the county or any other entity for the foreseeable future. We can run this basically at a break-even level for at least 5 years, and certainly sometime beyond that, considering where our fund balance will be. Now, on the second point here, Avonmarsh is completing the Berrien County's facility assessment. We will see this shortly, Brian. I think like a week or two almost, we're going to have this thing. I will give you advanced preview. The bus facility is in bad shape. really bad shape. It's in need of dramatic investment, and we don't believe it makes a lot of sense to put that kind of investment into a 35 to 40-year-old facility. Berrien Springs Public Schools is interested in that property. As I said, RISA has capacity in their garages temporarily to house us. We are working on a possible scenario where we move Berrien Bus physically into RISA's garage for a period of time while we help develop a new facility jointly with the city of Niles and with RISA Berrien Springs Public Schools. There's a ton of money that's coming available through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act for capital transportation needs like this. And we believe we will be able to fund it through capital program, but it's going to take time to do the design, site acquisition, and so on and so forth. But this is something that we're working on. In the long run, it would allow us to reduce our overhead costs in maintaining a facility. It would also bring the staff of all these systems under one common roof, which may, it's like, not like we're getting married, but it's more like now we're dating a little bit. And this may be a good thing for us to help kind of bring the systems closer together. So per this resolution, sorry about that. Here we go. Again, the resolution is just stating our intent to apply for funding to manage the bus system for 2023. It'll obviously have to be amended later in the year, but right now we're projecting operating revenue of about $955,000 for 2023 and operating expenses about $915,000. So in other words, about $40,000 of fund balance increase in 2023. We are also requesting $70,000 in congestion mitigation funds for one replacement of an accessible van. And that's it. Any questions?
One.
Yes, sir.
So this isn't relating to the resolution, but hopefully you can provide some insight. So for those regions or those areas that happen to fall under the Takata service region, let's say Takata doesn't go into an agreement with those municipalities. Have you guys thought of any alternative options of how to get service out to those areas? Because I know Takata primarily services the Ben Harbor area, and they may have some fixed routes out to other areas, but there's currently no primary service being provided.
It's unfortunately the answer is there's not good options. The federal government has ascribed a geography that is urban, and Takata is the recipient of the money for that urban area. If Takata chooses not to serve the whole area, Berrien Bus cannot just simply go in and serve that area. We only can do that by agreement with Takata, the FTA, and MDOT. And as of right now, the FTA and MDOT are unwilling to alter those boundaries to allow Berrien Bus to go into those areas. I can't tell you what the future will hold. I know that the FTA is paying very close attention to Takata's operations right now, but as it stands currently, even if some community wanted to pay us, say Lincoln Township or parts of Benton Township or St. Joe Town, even if they wanted to pay us, we couldn't legally go into those areas and provide that service without the permission of all of those parties, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Anything from finance on this? Okay. Before we do the public comments regarding resolutions, I'm going to circle back to requisitions. Briefly, we talked about that during the committee of the whole. And find out if anyone has any other questions on requisitions. I do have one abstention for requisition 57126 from Commissioner Freeling. So I'll note that. And then otherwise, this is on our consent calendar, but when we get to the consent calendar, Terry, I will reference that abstention as to that specific requisition. So anyone have anything on requisition? Yes, ma'am.
Were there any changes from finance on those subdivisions that were questions? And can you explain those?
I was going to come out unless finance.
She wants to know what we changed on the waiver. Remember, we went from 3 trucks for the road department to 4.
Is that on the
Yeah, it's on the record.
thing? So should I tell you about that now?
Well,
Or in my report?
do you know, do you have that in front of you on your summary?
Yeah, so basically on the one that I laid down for everybody, that was just a copy. So we appointed a vendor to the steel blades, went back to the bid number just as the reference, and I adjusted that price. It's actually less than what we originally had on there. And then on the carbide blades, we also added the manufacturer, the vendor, and that price actually went down just a hair. And then the signature Ford, they did increase that from 3 to 4. Kevin brought me the individual amount so we could add that. And so the new total on there is reflective of those 3 changes to the request.
And may I add to that, what happened was through FedEx, the bidder sent his mail overnight. And we should have gotten it a couple of days before it was due, but we did not get it until after we had opened the other bids. And so we as a committee agreed that we should open it, and that's how we had that today. And when Jake Lideker got the mail, he called Kevin and said, don't order, don't do anything. And so we made it right today. Zach.
We also have precedents for that. We've done that in the past. When something happens, the courier doesn't get a properly placed bid here on time.
All right, anything else on requisitions? Revisiting for a moment, the presentation by Dan Fetty. Anyone with BCAP have anything to add? Any comments? Yes, ma'am.
I would just, again, thank staff, thank Dan for his work with regards to this. It has been an ever-moving target of what we've been dealing with because of the pandemic and those unforeseen circumstances, and he's navigated it, pun intended, I guess, quite well. So, of course, the conversation continues from BCAT, and we will continue to make this board aware of any additional findings that come before it, but this is just standard procedure. So thank you, sir.
Very good, thank you.
Max,
Yes, sir.
I have one other thing. A few years ago, this board authorized a inflection of $200,000 into the Berrien bus. And that was supposed to be for the new route studies and how that was going to go. It should be noted that due to the pandemic and everything, that none of that money was ever given to that program. So we had approved, I think, 200,000, one year for 100,000, next year for 100,000. And it was never, even though we approved it, it was never used. That's all. I didn't know if the other board members knew that or not.
I remember.
Yeah.
I think specifically we approved up to
right,
those amounts. So somewhere between 0 and 100 could be spent each year. Apparently it was 0. So,
That other one was an error.
all right, so with that, we'll move to public comments concerning resolutions. We don't have any added resolutions.
And I don't want to pull that.
Okay, there's been no request to pull anything. And that means if you have a comment to make about resolutions, it's the resolutions that are within the 4 corners of our agenda. This is not general public comment, just comment about agenda items, the resolutions on the agenda. Does anyone in the audience wish to say anything about any resolutions? Yes, sir, please. You know the drill.
Tony Bernard says, my memory serves me correctly, and most of you guys were on the board back then. When the purchase of the old dealership on Napier, that is now the health department, was made, it was the administration, or administrators' selling point to buy that oh, there's a big garage there and we're gonna move Berrien bus to Napier. And I think that was discussed more than once. And that was never done. Now, if that building was bought with that premises to use the garage there, which was a garage with lifts and everything else, why wasn't it ever done? Why are we using a facility that's dilapidated, so to speak?
Thank you. Any other comments about resolutions on the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted? And this includes the annexation request by the Village of Eau Claire.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Scott, supported by Freeling. Photo finish.
Yes, it was.
Any comments? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Harrison,
Yes.
Hinkleman,
Yes.
Majerick,
Yes.
Meeks,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Werfel,
Yes.
Yarborough,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Freeling,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas.
Thank you. And just to make sure the minutes reflect this, the resolution involving weekly requisitions ending in 063. The requisition 57126 has an abstention from Commissioner Freeling. Okay. So onto the back of the page, we had no added resolutions. Madam Clerk, can you, coming back to the Village of Eau Claire annexation resolution, I believe the village through their council is going to need a certified copy. And I think we're going to need to provide the same to Pipestone and Berrien townships as well. I don't know if anything goes to Lansing or not, but once they get those, they'll know what to do with them.
Okay, and if you can, you just go over here in the office right over there and they'll take care of it.
Okay.
We'll take care of it.
I'll share a proposed order with your council. The state has a form.
Okay,
And in addition to sending it to Village Clerk, you also have to send it to the Secretary of State's office.
okay.
So,
Well,
thank you for your time.
Sure, we can certify this resolution in short order and go from there. You're all set.
Thank you, Commissioner, 100% appreciate it for our small advancement in Eau Claire.
Thank you.
That's how you say it. Okay.
Just like the one in Wisconsin. Yeah. Okay, board appointments, PHS committee, Commissioner Harrison, Chairman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have four appointments or reappointments to the Workforce Development Board for you to consider today. First is John Janik, second, Steve Jackson, third, Kathy Valdez, and the fourth is Vale Harding. All are current board members for the Workforce Development Board. And we submit, the committee considered their applications and are recommending approval for each of them.
And you're making that as a motion?
That is my motion.
Is there support? Support. Moved by Harrison, supported by Bell. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been on?
I do not have that information. I would say probably 3 years or more. Kathy Valdez is a VHS appointee, so she's there by virtue of her title. Vale Harding is Vale Rubber. Steve Jackson is with Eco Technologies, and John Janik is chairman of the board for Cornerstone Alliance.
So are they specific or are they these public positions?
These are ones that the Connexus, the workforce board, recruit and recommend to us for consideration.
Yeah. And no attendance issues that you're aware of with any of them?
Not that we know.
All right. It's been moved and supported. Any other comments? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those appointments are made, and does the clerk provide notification, or is that done by Annette? Okay, all right. Then I'm sure she'll take care of that. We'll go to committee reports, and on this list, finance is first, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We started out with Executive Assistant to Administrator Annette Christie. We had Planning Commission applications. In December, we reappointed 2 members of the Planning Commission, knowing that in January we would look at the balance. We have 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission, and we had 6 applications. And what we have done is we looked through the applications and we have appointed, and with the approval of the board, Brian Savage and Alexander Little. And I thank all the people that applied. And what we want to encourage them to do is to keep your applications for 1 year, but we encourage you to look at other committees and because we have other openings, look at them and add that to your application. We thank you very much. I don't quite know, do we make a motion or quite what happens with the?
You did that in committee, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, then it'll come to the board floor for action next Thursday.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then Community Development Director Dan Fetty came to us. He's been busy and everywhere, everywhere today. But what it was approval of a Brownfield plan. And it's for Jimmy John's, which is going to be at about M139 and Napier. It's right by where 1 Hour Martinizing was, Clem and Bobby's. And this being designated as a Brownfield plan will give them some more incentives and things as they do this. You know, they're right already in the row right across the street by Pier 1. So they'll move across and be larger and more, be able to drive up because they were not a drive-through. So it'll be good for everyone.
Could you talk a little louder, please?
Yes, it'll be good for everyone. There's going to be a new Jimmy John's right where Bob and Clemmy's Cleaners was. And Berrien County is providing a Brownfield designation to them. Financial analyst Jake Lideker came to us with a bid. It's for the road department for a portable traffic signal. And what happens should it be a terrible accident or some work being done in the road, it'll be just like the regular red, green, yellow light. There are 2 of them and there'll be one at the, at each end rather than just the person with the flag. Sometimes there's a real need for, to be able to use that. And our committee member, Ezra Scott, asked, why couldn't we rent one? And Kevin Stack said that there are not any available. What it ended up being was $71,000. And we had allotted $70,000 for this. So they're going to go ahead and order it. We agreed to doing that. Then, the trucks, we're going to had a waiver request for 3 trucks. And we tried to get them locally, but no one can, get them. So we went through the My Bid and it went with a company that's called Signature and they're in Owasso. And they showed in their queue that they had 4 trucks. And what we thought as a committee, it would be good for them to go ahead and order 4 rather than 3 with the problem, because we've been trying now going into the 2nd month just to make an order, not to say how long will it take, to get it. And so we added that and before January 31st, they're going to do the order. What was the waiver request? I forgot.
The waiver request was for the,
I bet I got it.
right, but it was for the 3 trucks.
Oh, that's the 3 trucks. Good.
Right.
Here it is right here.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's done. And then we approved the weekly bills. We approved Brownfield plan. 10 years ago, the city or the village of Galen asked the sheriff if he had any kind of car they might could buy and they bought a car 10 years ago. And so we had driven it to 100-something thousand miles, and they have driven it. And they called or contacted the sheriff and asked if there were any more cars. And so we agreed to sell for $1 a sheriff's car to the village of Berrien. So that's going to happen. We approved the minutes, and I think that's all. Oh, which was really interesting. There is a portion where it asks if there's a public comment. And we have a gentleman that sits with us often. His last name is Haskins. And he said that the broadband is on the highest need. They know that as they do business, he's on his community's commission. Where does Mr. Haskins live?
I think Bainbridge.
Bainbridge?
Or no, Pipestone.
Pipestone Township, and that was a good decision that we're making, working on the broadbands. Then Michael Hoy, who works with Riverwood, there are a lot of outlying houses and things we have, and they have a time being able to get their business done, even just to punch in because of the need for broadband. So we're on the track and on the way. That's my report.
Thank you. Questions for finance? Jim, you want to go next, admin?
Yes, thank you, Matt. We had Chief Judge Mabel Johnson Mayfield and Administrator Carrie Smetanka-Haney in to see us this morning. And Commissioner Wolfel would like to report out on that.
Thank you. Judge Mayfield went over all their goals for the courts this year, and one of their primary goals is the revisioning of the courts so that it's just more people friendly. One of the examples she gave was like a change to the name of the landlord tenant court, just so that tenants aren't coming in thinking, well, I'm just going to be evicted today. They're coming in to be heard. They're coming in to, have a fair trial, things like that. So that's one of their big goals for this year, is some of that revisioning. And then with that, she said she'll probably be bringing to us soon an initiative of county court leadership initiative, where you're grabbing all county departments that interact with the courts and working together and putting that initiative together. So we'll probably hear more on that in the near future. One of their big challenges for 2022 is staffing, as most departments within the county. However, they have a critical staffing issue at the juvenile center. They are actually down 10 people. That, as we all know, that's a 24/7 operation. And they're doing that right now with 12 people. So they are at half staff. So that is critical at this point in time. So she wanted to make sure that we were aware of that, and that they are working on creative solutions and creative recruitment and things like that as well. But that is a critical thing right now. She gave us a COVID update, the backlog, it's really improving. Judge Mayfield and the prosecutor actually had a conversation about it not too long ago. And she said that they are really, they really have hit that out of the ballpark, and they're in good shape right now. So they've really caught up on that backlog from when the courts had to be closed. So that was a really positive thing also coming out of the courts. And then I'm sure Commissioner Harrison will talk about it more to PHSC, but she did talk to us about the complement change from for the friend of the court, from the office assistant to the administrative secretary, and the need for that and what that change involved. So we also heard about that as well. And then we received the new list of judge assignments for 2022, which included some new presiding judges and some shifts in where some of the judges are. That's my report.
Thank you, Julie. Next time we get together, we'll have a couple of resolutions for you. One ending in 187. The Berrien County Road Department must annually submit the Act 51 certification maps, which specify the miles of primary and local roads. And so this resolution, total miles is 1,477.37. That's 482.83 primary county road miles and 994.54 local county road miles. So you'll see that next time we get together. I brought to your attention a resolution for retiring Micah and allowing his handler to purchase Micah and take possession. We didn't do it today. We pushed this off to next Thursday so that Deputy Haskins and Micah can be here. So we will do that while they're present. We had the board chair and our county administrator in, and we approved our minutes, and that's our report.
Very good, thank you. Questions for admin? Okay, Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also had a very busy morning. First, we reviewed 4 advanced step hire requests, one from the Family Division, one from Trial Court, one from the Health Department, and one from GIS Mapping. I think the good news is they were able to recruit very talented people into the vacant positions. And so all of them are within budget, and we did approve those. We also had a honorary resolution that you'll consider at a later date. We had 4 resolutions for you for next week. One dealing grant application from the Health Department. This was the one that was originally on our agenda and then was removed since they weren't ready to submit it. And still waiting on some cost estimates for the grant application. You'll be hearing about substance abuse with family empowerment services between the Health Department and Family Empowerment Services. This is for pre-arrest diversion for youth in having some substance abuse issues. Also, the Parks Department will be here with a request for, they went out to bid on hazardous waste, and so that will come to you next week. And then also some small charges regarding disc golf fees down at Madeline Burton Park. And then we did consider meet with Ms. Haney regarding the front of the court change where the no longer need to have a imaging technician, now are converting that to a secretary. And no real significant budget impact on that. So we did approve those. We had a very lengthy presentation from Lee regarding veteran services. Things are going well there. They've been given additional money from the state and that they'll be using to promote veteran services. You'll see some billboards that will go up, as well as some outreach to the senior centers. And so I think it's all, good with the additional use of the money. They are experiencing some shortage of van drivers. They've gone from 24 to 4. And so these are the individuals that volunteer to drive vans down to South Bend and also out to Battle Creek. So that is of concern to Lee. And then he talked a bit about the VA appeal process and some of the issues they're encountering because of the slowdown at the federal level. And so they're becoming more engaged in some of those. We also talked briefly about the evaluation form for the county administrator. If you've not turned in your form, you need to do that by the end of business today for your thoughts to be fully considered. And so Shelley will be compiling those with us. And then we also had our administrator and board chair in, and we talked a bit about the transition of the property out at the old Berrien General Hospital site and impacts that might have. And so, gentlemen, I think does that cover everything? That would conclude my report.
I'd like to know, does the health department have any of those masks? It's not N95 or whatever it is. Did they say?
I don't know. I've heard that they're being pushed out to local pharmacies and health departments. But I've not heard directly from the health department regarding availability of masks.
Thank you.
Questions for PHC? Other questions? The request from the court administrator, is that considered a complement change done within the committee?
But there's no budget impact.
Okay, so the committee can authorize that
We
without
did
board
that.
action. Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Sheriff mentioned the vehicle for the village of Galeen to admin and to finance. I talked with Chris Palmer, the clerk. She was just ecstatic about getting another vehicle. They are still making that Crown Vic that we sold them for $1 many years ago. They're still making that thing work. It's still running well, but they do need another vehicle. And this one, as I understand it, is in good shape. It's just racked up some miles. So it's not going to get a lot of use within the confines of the village, but it will help them. They have a part-time force. I think they have a constable too, don't they, Sheriff?
Yeah, but this would be just used by the police department.
Okay. All right. So commissioner reports, we'll go clockwise. John, anything?
No report.
Berrien County Historical Association, I went to their meeting Zoom. They're doing well, got a lot of programs going on. They are looking for board members. Their policy is they can serve so many years, then they have to get off. They have to stay off for a year, then they could reapply if they want. And there are a number of board members who have done that. But right now, they're gonna lose quite a bit of experience. They've got a couple of new board members, but if you know anyone who might be interested in serving as a board member on the Historical Association, either get a hold of Direct down at the courthouse in Berrien Springs, or get a hold of me and I'll pass it along. That's my report.
Report. I had the MAC HHS meeting this week, and we had a great presentation by a company called Aqua Clara. They produce filters for heavy metal contaminations for water. It's a replacement cartridge that'll work in Brita and pure filters. It is a Michigan-based company, which is why they were on the line. I have passed the information along to Brian and to Guy, as well as the Community Action Association, so that they have that information as well. I don't know where we get ours currently, but not a request to change or anything like that. It was just so they had the information and the presentation. It's good information. We talked about a few of the legislative updates. Things are just getting started in Lansing, and there were no, other than the mental health bill, there's no major bills of concern right now. That's my report.
No report.
No report.
No report.
No report.
That's all right. Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, to follow up on Commissioner Yarborough's question about mask availability from our health department, Guy Miller just shot me a note saying that health department for the past couple of years has handed out masks whenever they're doing vaccine clinics. And then at the high point, they had about 25,000 masks in an inventory that they then are providing to local organizations, local nonprofits that are then handing them out. They have not done a distribution site because they don't have staff available to do it, and there's multiple competing organizations that are already providing them out. They are giving away masks. It's indirect. They're going to local nonprofits to give away masks. You're welcome.
Anything else?
No, sir.
General public comments are now on the agenda. Anything under the sun in 2 minutes or less, just tell us your name and what political subdivision you're from, city, village, township. You look like you'd like to say something. Just come on up.
Do I stand right here?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Annie Brown, and I'm running for state representative in the new House District 38. So it has to be the most beautiful House district in Michigan. So I'm glad to be here. I've lived in South Haven for 35 years with my family. For 20 years, my husband and I owned the local funeral home in South Haven. I served on the South Haven School Board for 13 years. I used to work for Senator Carl Levin in his Washington, D.C. office, and most recently, I worked for Senator Gary Peters as his West Michigan Regional Coordinator. Now I'm running for state representative because this is a new district and I can see how well we can work together and how this area can use a strong partner in Lansing. I'll be the kind of state representative who listens to the experts and who just shows up. When I talk to people in this area, one of the things they're obviously concerned about is the high water levels and bluff erosion. So sometimes we'll have low water years and then it will come back. So we always have to be proactive and ready to help municipalities. When I talk to people, they're concerned about their children and their families and their schools. 22% of children in Berrien County live in poverty. Another issue that you talked about was the mental health care bills in Lansing. There is, and primary health care is also an issue in this area. In Berrien County, there is one primary health care professional and provider for every 1,310 people. So we really need to come up with a system that Lansing could do to help small towns.
2 minutes, ma'am.
That was it?
That's it.
Wow, time flies. So thank you so much. It was good to be here.
Yes, sir.
Michael Albert Hoy, City of Benton Harbor. I was going over the Benton Harbor High School scholarship opportunities. There's one in there for Bryce Booth being the family of them. And that really warmed my heart. Then I got to the next one, the Patrick Freely Memorial Scholarship. And that one really touched my heart. Terry Sue, I thank you, your family, and your outreach for the community, your outreach for Benton Harbor students. It warmed my heart. On a side note, because it also brings in, the whole thing about Berrien County Youth Fair, and that's something that's close to both our hearts. I talked with our state rep, Pauline Wenzel, last year, and we're thinking about getting a bus that will take the inner city youth of Benton Harbor to have that experience. And I hope we can partner with a couple other people to make that happen from the legacy group of Benton Harbor, starting right down there and taking the kids out to the fair. So I just wanted to say I saw that, it tickled me, and it was my happy post for the week. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Melissa Clapper, St. Joe Charter Township. As you are talking about evaluating Mr. Doucette, I just wanted to throw in my 3 cents worth as a citizen that has attended. And I just want to say that I really appreciate the effort that Brian makes to explain things, to make it easy for the general public that doesn't always get all the information that goes on in the different committee members and even the committee of the whole, which I love the committee of the whole because it gives us so much information. But he has been very helpful, has been very accommodating. As everyone knows, I like to ask questions. He does not hesitate to answer. So I just want to put that plug in as you're evaluating him, that as a citizen of this county, he has done a wonderful job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now we have to pay him more money.
I'll make sure I give her my Girl Scout cookies.
Okay, Pelter, Hager Township. No, I go shopping at Myers. When I go in there, they got a restroom, really nice. The other end, if I'm shopping, they got another restroom, really nice. And then there's one down there by the cafeteria. You used to have a cafeteria in there. It looks like that. What do you think would happen if some employee at Myers puts up a sign that says for employees only? And the only one that the public can use would be the one that looks like this. So what do you think will happen? I wouldn't shop there anymore. Myers will go belly up, right? We go down to another one, down to Martin's. Competition. And you guys have a monopoly. You like that word, monopoly? That's why you're so act like a dictator. No, you're telling us what we cannot do. Go down the beach down there. See all those signs they got up there. No this, no that, no that. when are you gonna come up and use the word thanks, nice, have a nice day? You know, instead of putting your finger or your thumb on us. Or you think that's one of the reasons why politicians are the most hated people in America. I know some of that stuff should be, you know, somebody has to be a dictator, I guess. But what I'm saying is, I want a copy of exactly why that sign was put up there. I want to know who put it up there, what the reasons are for putting it up there, and what authority you have to deny us, the people that us, you know, the right to use it. No, you wanted to use that little cubby hole over there. Why didn't you guys use that? Let's switch that sign around. Put a sign on there and say employees only. The rest of the other ones are for us. No, you're supposed to be working for us, are you not? You're not. You treat us like dirt.
2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Peltzer. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Shokeway Pitchford, Benton Charter Township. I just wanted to come up and talk about previous week. I went to Paul Jancha's launch for his campaign to be district judge. And I just wanted to talk about really quickly how in that moment, as I was sitting there listening to him talking about his heritage and where he comes from and what he wants to do as judge, how completely different my generation is when it comes to our thought process in politics. A 22-year-old young Black man was sitting in the crowd listening to someone announce that they were running for judge. And for the first time in my life, I kind of in the moment felt, man, I really think that we are on a different trajectory in this world right now. I think we're headed toward the time where people are more civically engaged, politically engaged, culturally engaged. And seeing someone talk about how it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, where you come from, you're going to get your fair day in court is not something I've always heard from my community that they feel like the court system represents. And to be able to go back and tell people, you should actually go down your ballot, find Paul Jancha and vote for him specifically. It feels good to know that we have people running for judge who are starting to talk about issues that affect my community, your community, and the communities that haven't always been represented. So I just want to say that Paul is a great guy. I hope everybody chooses to support him in this election. And I look forward to more judges running and making these judgeships something that people know about, because I don't know how many people know that you actually vote for judges. I didn't know it until recently, and I majored in political science. So thank you for your time this morning, and thank you all for letting us speak.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? All right, we'll go to other business. Anyone have any? Yes, sir.
Just a curiosity question. The redistricting, that's all done? Because the last I saw, there were being appeals made or something like that. So in our county commissioner districts and our state and senate, those are
No,
concrete
the
now?
county districts are done. There won't be any changes on county unless there is a county who has a lawsuit right now. Yesterday, one lawsuit was presented on the state level. It's being heard right now. I do know from the Secretary of State from yesterday, reaching out to her, that there are 2 cases filed on the congressional state seats.
What does that mean? Does that delay the
Well,
process?
it could. It definitely could. I think one lawsuit is more pointing out at special districts. I think the one that's being spoken in the courts right now is targeting an area. But if you worked on apportionment, you can't just move one district. It affects all the districts. It just pushes. So it will be interesting what will happen. There's the possibility, I think, with the congressional district, and this is my personal opinion, they will remain as is because it did delete one. I think there probably is more, possibly, they could possibly, one of the options would be they could freeze the districts for another year and then reevaluate it again. I mean, that has been a conversation. I don't know if the law would stand by that or not. I don't feel anything will change with the
Okay,
congressional
that's at the
seats.
federal level, the three, state level,
Right, we've
was it
got
two
in Berrien
senators and
County,
one-
this will be a very expensive election for our local clerks. It will be a lot of ballot splits. We have now 3 state reps versus 2. We have now 2 state senates versus 1. I think this will be very confusing for the voter, and hopefully our election workers will be trained appropriate and understand they're handing the right ballot out. There's a lot of concerns out there. We will be doing a workshop for local clerks regarding some of these issues, but I think a lot of clerks probably didn't, and I don't know what the expense. You could see me kind of possibly running over and buying ballots. We are right now hearing that we have a short supply again on paper. And if they by chance mail out the wrong ballots and have to get them back, we'll have to reorder. So I am very concerned about the amount of splits, what we are seeing, and how it will affect the candidates, the voters, and the people in Michigan right now.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Go ahead, and then Dave.
I just want to ask, it's still with the election. Could you explain about about the county, about our local, because that has changed.
The local, the county seats will stay the same. We did not change.
Mine
We
has
still have
changed.
12 districts. They're apportioned correctly. Looking at previous maps in the past, we had to review bridges and items like that on property. There was a couple questionable areas, and we made them whole so that they could not be court challenged. So unfortunately, districts could not remain the same, but hopefully we'll have all good candidates again.
Yeah, because mine is larger. And did they do something in
But population decreased, so in certain areas. And my concern is just because your population decreased doesn't mean that you're going to represent less people, because we are a tourist county. And I would say, especially like in Isara's district in Chickaming, they lost population. I don't think these people left. Somebody else moved into those homes. That district will still have to represent probably more people than what are labeled as residents.
And I agree with my change. It's logical.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
I did. I wanted it when it first happened. Yeah. I'm on the water. That's where I want to be.
Ezra, did you have something?
Yeah, just a comment to you, Jim. I'm not running for county commissioner anymore. I'm running for another seat. And it's been 3 weeks now. And I've placed a call into the state of Michigan because as a congressional candidate, I'm trying to get the amount of signatures that I need for my petition and how many from each of the new 10 counties are in my district, and I've received no phone calls back. So I have no idea, and as other people don't. The sad part about that is what that does do is it favors incumbents that are already in office. And that's what I don't agree with.
Anyone have anything else? Under other business, is this?
Sharon?
Well, can you talk with her after the meeting?
Well, might be something everybody wants to hear.
Pardon me?
Might be something everybody wants to know.
Okay, all right.
I just want to know, usually you have the maps up on the website, like the county commissioner map. Are they available on the website?
We've been working with the IT department, IS, and I think there's some issues, and some of the maps which are given to us, it's hard to pull some of the public comments off. So I do know IT is working with our land description Lex on that issue. But we've been working on it, but we didn't put, I don't believe the congressional or that is available. You're better off going to the redistricting commission by the state of Michigan at this time because of how those maps are designed. And you, unfortunately, those, they should be.
They will be, they will be. I have the verbiage part, I don't have the map part, but the verbiage, I'm gonna be working to get that changed as to what is where. And then, yes, we are
And-
working on trying to get the maps up there as well.
And then the map, and some of the maps didn't label the roads, so even when you looked at them, you didn't know where they divided. So I know Lex has been working on that.
Okay.
Get another map to line it up with that map.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Okay, any announcements, reminders? All right, then we stand adjourned to Thursday next.